It's one of those things that, for me, it just consumed me. But it gave me that odd feeling of pursuit.
It was also something Tim kept secret, his addiction to pornography.
It was filling a void, right or wrong. It was filling something that I needed filled.
It began with teenage curiosity and a magazine. But the images sparked a desire in Tim to see more. By the time he reached adulthood, a boy's fascination had grown into an addiction fueled by the internet.
It started slowly, and it was a short period of time and I was fully addicted.
Yet no one ever suspected Tim had a problem. After all, he was a Christian who was active in his church. Even when he married, his wife ستيفاني had no idea he was hiding something.
I knew we had some issues, but I didn't think they were horrific by any means. I thought we had a pretty healthy marriage.
Tim also traveled for work and as a member of a vocal group. The travel allowed him to indulge in his addiction, but also opened the door to something else he craved, the attention of women. So Tim pursued one affair after another.
Later there'd be disappointment, be frustrated with myself, angry with myself. But no, I shouldn't be in this place because I know if I'm here, I'm going to go down this road. And I would.
Eventually, Tim and ستيفاني had children, but still nothing changed. Tim knew what he was doing was wrong, but the addiction had taken over.
I was so gone, when the devil has that kind of grip on you, you don't realize it. And so you're just numb, and I was numb.
One day, Tim was confronted with the truth when a friend at work talked to him about something he had read in the Bible. Tim's guilt became overwhelming.
I think it was just where I was at that day. I just totally lost it. And I left, and I remember praying and just saying, God, I'm done. I'm done. Do what you want. And he took it away. The addiction was gone. The desire for affairs was gone. That to me was probably the most impactful moment in my life, because it was so real. And that's when my faith became real.
But Tim still had struggles and continued chatting online with women. Even so, he worked on being a better husband and father. ستيفاني noticed the change, but she didn't know why, because Tim still hadn't confessed his secrets. One day it all came out when ستيفاني came across a Facebook entry from her husband to a woman she didn't know.
I was pretty crushed. I was devastated because that kind of conversation should not have taken place between somebody else and my husband. That's totally crossing the line.
The way she reacted to that was absolute disgust for me. And she didn't know the rest of the story.
And so I went to bed that night kind of with a pit in my stomach, knowing something was up.
And she knew. She knew something was up. It's still hard to talk about. So I just spilled. What do you do at that point? I mean, I just spilled and told her, and she left.
Got the keys and I immediately drove to church, and I sat at church and just cried out for help and just...
The only hope I had is that I knew my wife, and I knew she loved me.
Now ستيفاني knew.
And I remember standing in the kitchen and Tim saying, I'll respect whatever your decision is. And I said, well, I can't have you leave. You need to stay here for the kids. And then later that night, our pastor shared with me, you need to grieve for your marriage. You need to grieve what was and what you had. And you need to grieve the fact that your marriage will never be the same ever again. But also, he just said the simple words of forgive as you have been forgiven. And I remember telling him, I don't know if I can ever forgive him for this.
The couple stayed apart for 10 days. During that time, ستيفاني came to a realization that, at the time, was very hard to accept.
And in order for me to heal, I have to forgive him. That doesn't mean I don't have to forget. That doesn't mean that the pain is gone. But I can start to heal now that I've given him that. And then together we can heal together.
The path to forgiveness and rebuilding trust would take time.
He had to gain it back, you know, and so it was just by him being open and honest, by saying, here's all my passwords. Check my email, check my Facebook, check this.
Once we were able to do that, then it was like the path to recovery for us was rapid. She accepted where I was. She accepted that it wasn't an issue for me anymore, but I needed accountability.
You know, by him being honest with me, it made it a lot easier for me to start to trust him.
Healing and forgiveness come through God.
Without God, I don't know how, I don't think we would be sitting here today. I know we wouldn't be sitting here today.
We were taught that Christ had to be the center of the house. And I think that's backwards. I think Christ needs to be center of your life. And if he's the center of your life and the center of your wife's life, he will by default become the center of your house.